In the bustling heart of Nairobi, where skyscrapers reached for the clouds and cast long shadows over the colorful, chaotic markets below, there stood the grand mansion of Madam Akin. A woman of remarkable wealth, elegance, and influence, she was known in every social circle, from high-powered boardrooms to exclusive charity galas. Her home was a testament to luxury, marble floors that gleamed under crystal chandeliers, gardens meticulously trimmed to perfection, then rooms filled with rare art and antiques collected from across the globe. Yet, behind the iron gates and perfectly manicured hedges, life was not as flawless as it appeared. Despite the elegance, the parties, and the constant admiration, a subtle emptiness lingered in Madam Akin's life. There was a quiet longing she could not name, a sense that something vital was missing, a piece of her heart that wealth and status could not fill. It was in this quiet, almost imperceptible void, that our story begins. One bright Monday morning, as the first rays of sunlight danced over the polished marble of Madam Akin's mansion, a young man named Kamau stepped through the towering iron gates. He was not a man of wealth, nor did he carry the air of privilege that often accompanied those who moved in high circles. What he did possess, however, was a fire within, a passion for his craft that shone brighter than gold. Hired solely to work as a chef, Kamau carried nothing more than his cooking skills, a simple leather bag of essentials, and an unshakable humility that made him both grounded and unassuming. Little did he know, the mansion's walls held more than just grand rooms and glittering chandeliers. Within them were secrets, longings, and emotions that had yet to be awakened. And it was Kamau's hands, steady, creative, then warm, that would soon stir more than pots and pans. They would stir hearts, ignite curiosity, and set in motion a chain of events that would forever change the rhythm of life behind those iron gates. As Kamau carefully chopped, stirred, and seasoned in Madam Akin's gleaming kitchen, the rich, polished room echoing with the clatter of pots and pans, she quietly entered. Curious about her new hire, Madam Akin had come to observe the young man who was to work in her household. She paused at the threshold, her sharp eyes taking in every movement. There was something different about Kamau, something subtle yet magnetic. Perhaps it was the quiet confidence in his hands, the way he moved with focus and care, or the humility in the slight bow he gave as he greeted her, his eyes respectfully lowered. Madam Akin's gaze lingered longer than she intended, drawn inexplicably to the young man who seemed so ordinary yet somehow extraordinary. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them, a spark that neither wealth nor experience could predict. It was the beginning of a flame, a quiet, simmering warmth that had nothing to do with the kitchen fire and everything to do with hearts ready to awaken to each other in ways they never expected. When Madam Akin finally tasted Kamau's first dish, a rich, aromatic goat stew infused with a delicate blend of herbs and spices, something inside her stirred. Each spoonful seemed to carry not just flavor, but warmth, comfort, and an undeniable touch of care that went beyond the kitchen. It was as if Kamau had poured a part of his soul into the pot, transforming a simple meal into an experience that lingered long after the last bite. Madam Akin found herself savoring more than just the food, she savored the thoughtfulness and passion that seemed to radiate from the young chef. From that day onward, she began finding reasons to visit the kitchen more often, at first, under the guise of checking on the meals, adjusting a seasoning here, or inspecting the arrangement of the dishes there. But deep down, she knew the real reason she lingered was far more personal. She was drawn, almost magnetically, to the man behind the pot, his quiet humility, his focus, and the unexpected warmth that seemed to reach her heart in ways she hadn't anticipated. Days turned into weeks, and the rhythm of life in the mansion began to shift in subtle, unnoticeable ways. Madam Akin found herself smiling at the sound of Kamau's voice, his words carrying a warmth and sincerity that felt refreshingly genuine. His laughter, unpolished, unpretentious, and utterly contagious, echoed through the halls, leaving an unexpected lightness in her chest. There was a rare humility in him, the quiet strength that seemed to exist without effort, and she realized it was unlike anything she had encountered in her world of wealth and influence. And yet, inside her, a storm brewed, a clash of desire and duty. How can I, she whispered to herself in the quiet of her private chambers, a woman of status, power, and experience, fall for a mere chef? Every glance she stole, every moment she lingered near him, only intensified the inner conflict. She chastised herself, reminding her mind of propriety, social expectations, and the life she had built. But the heart, as it often does, ignored reason. Love does not ask for permission, nor does it recognize the boundaries of status, wealth, or position. And slowly, irresistibly, it began to claim both of them, weaving a bond neither anticipated. Elsewhere in the mansion, subtle whispers began to ripple through the staff quarters like a gentle breeze that promised a coming storm. "Have you noticed how Madame looks at the chef?" one maid murmured, her voice tinged with excitement and speculation. Another chuckled softly, leaning closer as if sharing a secret with the walls themselves. "Oh, it is only a matter of time before scandal knocks on these doors," she replied, her eyes glinting with mischief. Rumors, once sown, spread quickly, quiet conversations in hallways, fleeting glances exchanged over polished countertops, and hushed giggles behind closed doors. Yet Kamau remained blissfully unaware, immersed in his work and the comforting routine of the kitchen. And Madame Eking, for her part, carried herself with practiced poise, pretending not to notice the lingering stares and murmured speculation, even as a faint flush occasionally warmed her cheeks. Despite their attempts at discretion, the mansion itself seemed to hum with anticipation. The air grew heavier, charged with curiosity and the unspoken promise of something new, something that neither rules nor rumors could contain. Every glance, every subtle gesture between the two of them only added fuel to the quiet fire that was beginning to blaze, unnoticed yet undeniable. One evening, as heavy rain drummed relentlessly against the mansion's roof and the wind rattled the tall windows, the light suddenly flickered and went out, plunging the house into semi-darkness. Madame Eking made her way to the kitchen, drawn by the comforting glow of the firewood still burning in the hearth. There, amidst the steam rising from simmering pots, she found Kamau, quietly humming an old Luo folk song as he stirred a fragrant soup. The melody was soft, almost hypnotic, carrying with it memories she could not name. She lingered at the doorway, unseen, allowing herself a rare moment of vulnerability. The woman of wealth, status, and unshakable poise melted into something far simpler, a lonely heart craving warmth and connection. Kamau, oblivious to her presence, hummed on, his voice rich, steady, and soothing, as if the song itself were a balm for invisible wounds. When their eyes finally met across the flickering shadows, the world outside, the mansion, the rain, the whispers of society fell away. In that suspended moment, silence spoke louder than words, and for the first time, Madame Eking was not the boss, not the socialite, not the woman of influence. She was simply a soul, quietly touched by another, recognizing a kindred spirit in the unlikeliest of places. At last, the carefully constructed wall between them began to crumble, brick by brick. The storm outside raged on, rain hammering against the windows, but inside the kitchen, a different kind of storm took hold. Madame Eking stepped closer, her hands trembling slightly, and confessed with a raw honesty that surprised even herself, "Kamau, I do not understand this, but my heart, it beats differently when you are near. Every moment I spend watching you work, listening to you hum, it changes something inside me." Kamau froze, spoon suspended mid-stir, his chest tightening as if the words themselves had rooted him to the floor. For a long, suspended second, the kitchen was filled only with the scent of spices, the warmth of fire, and the relentless patter of rain. Then, his voice came, low and tender, carrying a weight he had long kept hidden, "Madam, I was hired only to cook, only to serve, but somehow, I fear my heart is no longer my own. It belongs to this kitchen, and to you." In that intimate, rain-drenched kitchen, amid the flickering shadows of firelight and the rhythm of the storm outside, two worlds collided. The distance between wealth and humility, power and simplicity, melted away, leaving only a raw, undeniable connection. It was a moment neither had anticipated, yet both had quietly longed for, a beginning written not by society or status, but by the undeniable pool of hearts that finally dared to meet. That night, the mansion lay shrouded in silence, broken only by the occasional rumble of distant thunder. Madame Eking could not sleep, tossing and turning beneath the heavy silk sheets of her opulent bedroom. Her mind raced with questions she had no answers for. What will people say? A wealthy, respected woman, in love with her servant. Can I truly give in to this feeling without losing everything I've built? Each thought was a mix of fear and longing, her heart tugged in two directions, by reason and by desire. Meanwhile, in his modest quarters near the servants' wing, Kamau lay awake on the simple cot, staring at the ceiling, the rhythmic patter of rain against the roof echoing his restless thoughts. Do I belong in her world? He asked himself over and over, doubting whether a man of humble beginnings could ever truly fit into the life of someone like Madame Ekin. Yet, try as they might to reason with their hearts, neither could ignore the undeniable flame that now burned between them, a warmth that had nothing to do with wealth, status, or expectation, and everything to do with connection, understanding, and longing. By the first light of dawn, both knew that something had changed irrevocably. Their lives, once parallel, had shifted onto the same path, uncertain and perilous, yet filled with a promise that neither had expected and could no longer resist. Not everyone in the mansion welcomed the quiet shift in atmosphere. Among the staff, the mansion's driver, an older man who had long harbored a secret admiration for Madame Eking, felt a bitter sting upon noticing the subtle changes in her demeanor. He watched, eyes narrowed, as Madame lingered in the kitchen longer than necessary, as stolen glances passed between her and Kamau, and as laughter that once echoed through the halls now carried a new warmth. Resentment festered like a slow-burning ember. He could not bear the thought of a young, humble chef capturing the attention of a woman of such status, someone he had quietly idolized for years. With a heart clouded by envy, he began plotting, devising ways to expose Kamau, to sow doubt, and to crush the fragile connection forming between them before it had the chance to bloom. But destiny, as it often does not bend easily to jealousy or fear. The universe, it seemed, had already begun weaving its threads, subtle, relentless, and beyond the reach of spiteful schemes. And as the driver's plans simmered in the shadows, the bond between Madame Eking and Kamau continued to grow, fragile yet unyielding, like a tender shoot pushing through cracks in stone. One sweltering afternoon, when the mansion was quiet save for the distant hum of traffic outside, the driver seized his chance. He cornered Madame Eking near the servants' quarters, his voice tight with anger and fear. Madame, he began, trying to steady his tone, people are talking. Your reputation, your dignity, everything you've built could be ruined. And that chef, do you really think this is wise? His eyes searched hers, hoping to find hesitation, doubt, anything that could sway her. But Madame Eking stood tall, her poise unshaken, the quiet strength that had defined her life now radiating with certainty. She fixed her gaze on him, calm yet resolute, and said softly, yet with unflinching conviction, "My heart is mine to give. And it has already chosen." The words struck like lightning. The driver's face paled as the weight of her declaration shattered the careful scheme he had nurtured, leaving nothing but fragments of disappointment and disbelief. In that moment, it became clear, love, once confessed, could not be undone. No rumor, no threat, no jealousy could erase what had taken root so deeply in hearts bold enough to embrace it. Weeks later, Madame Eking decided to take a leap that few could have imagined. The grand dining hall of her mansion glittered with crystal chandeliers and polished silverware, filled with her closest business associates, old family friends, and influential acquaintances. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air, a perfect mask for the tension about to unfold. With deliberate grace, Madame Eking approached the head of the table, Kamau walking beside her. Whispers rippled through the room, eyes widened, forks paused mid-air. Then, with a voice both clear and unwavering, she spoke, "Everyone, this is Kamau, not just my chef, but the man I love." A hush fell over the hall. Some guests coughed, exchanging skeptical glances, while others murmured in disbelief, unable to reconcile the union of wealth and humble beginnings. Yet Madame Eking remained steadfast, her hand firmly holding Kamau's, her gaze unwavering. In that moment, all the weight of societal expectations, judgment, and reputation seemed to vanish. For the first time in her life, she did not care for wealth, status, or what others might think. She cared only for the heart she had chosen and the love that had quietly, yet powerfully, reshaped her world. Over time, the sharp edges of gossip dulled, and the whispers that once slithered through the halls grew tired and faded into silence. The mansion, once a stage for speculation and judgment, began to breathe a new air, one filled with warmth, laughter, and acceptance. People slowly came to understand that love, in its purest and most profound form, is blind to wealth, status, or class. It thrives on connection, trust, and shared moments of joy. Madame Eking and Kamau nurtured a bond that went far beyond appearances. Their love was built on respect, mutual admiration, and the quiet understanding that each had found in the other a home for their hearts. The kitchen became a place not only of cooking but of shared smiles, playful banter, and unspoken tenderness. The dining hall, once rigid with formality and expectation, now echoed with genuine laughter and conversation. The mansion itself seemed transformed, as if recognizing the change in its residents. Rooms that had once carried the weight of scrutiny now danced with joy, light spilling across polished floors as if celebrating the union within. And in that space, between elegance and humility, between ambition and simplicity, Madame Eking and Kamau discovered that the greatest wealth was not measured in possessions, but in love freely given and fully returned. And so, in the bustling city of Nairobi, a story quietly spread, a tale of courage, hearts, and the unexpected ways love can transform lives. It was the story of a wealthy woman and her humble chef, two souls from different worlds who dared to defy tradition, to rise above gossip, and to follow the quiet insistence of their hearts. In doing so, they silenced the murmurs of doubt, softened the harsh judgment of society, and revealed a timeless truth, that love does not heed the boundaries of class, wealth, or expectation. For in the end, it was not the grandeur of silver plates or the glitter of chandeliers that mattered. The greatest meals, those that nourish the soul and linger in memory, are cooked with patience, care, and genuine affection. They are shared between hearts that see and cherish one another, where every flavor carries warmth, every gesture speaks devotion, and every moment becomes a treasure. And so, amidst the city's hum and the rhythm of daily life, Madame Eking and Kamau's love endured, quiet yet unshakable, simple yet profound, reminding all who heard their story that true wealth lies not in possessions, but in the courage to love fully, honestly, and without reservation. This was the tale of Madame Eking and Kamau, where love first simmered quietly in the warmth of a kitchen pot, stirred gently by shared laughter, care, and unspoken longing, and eventually blossomed into a bond that would last a lifetime. Their story reminded all who heard it that love does not follow rules or heed social boundaries, it grows wherever hearts are brave enough to nurture it. In the end, it was not wealth, status, or societal expectation that defined their happiness, but the courage to follow their hearts, the willingness to be seen and understood, and the simple truth that the most extraordinary love often blooms in the most ordinary of places. And so, in the heart of Nairobi, amidst the rhythm of life and the hum of the city, Madame Eking and Kamau's love endured, quiet, steadfast, and eternal, a testament to the power of hearts that dare to choose each other. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. Your support keeps the magic alive.